Good morning. Welcome to the press conference that is organized by Promo-LEX Association and Promo-LEX monitoring mission for the position of President of the Republic of Moldova. We are presenting today the second monitoring report for the presidential elections. First, I would like to make some introductory comments. We will try at this press conference for the first time to organize the translation, a simultaneous translation of this event into English and Russian, as well as into sign language, so that we make sure that most of the people and interested persons have the possibility to get information in the language that they understand from the first source. Live broadcasting of this event is in the official language of the mission, which is Romanian. In parallel, it is broadcast into English, and this broadcasting into English is organized by the European organization, European Platform for Free and Fair Elections. And on the Facebook page of Promo-LEX Association, we will post the videos of this press conference translated into Russian and into sign language. That is why I will try to speak at a lower pace to make sure that the translation is done properly, and we would like to thank the translators in advance. Regarding the monitoring period, there are a number of matters of principles that I would like to draw your attention to. In this press conference, we will present the information collected and reported by Promo-LEX observers in the territory from August 26th to September 15th, 2020. As for the funding of initiative groups, the period reflected in report is between the 2nd and 11th of September 2020. As for hate speech, the period is between the 1st and 11th of September. And for pre-registration, the report contains information until 16th of September 2020, when the pre-registration procedure ended. And now I would like to extend our sincere gratitude to our partners who are supporting, including financially, the Promo-LEX observation mission. It is the USAID, US Agency for International Development, also Soros Foundation Moldova, which under two projects monitoring hate speeches and monitoring the presidential elections, are also providing funding for our mission. So, as I've said in the first press conference, we are also extending our gratitude, and hopefully soon we will manage to end the procedures of signing the appropriate agreement with the Council of Europe to monitor the polling stations abroad, and also our colleagues from EPDE to ensure the broadcastings of our press conferences with translations. A very important issue that we would like to draw the attention to, including this report as well as all the other monitoring reports of Promo-LEX, have some very specific goals. First is to prevent some similar situations, unclear, unsecure, or problematic situations in the future. The second goal is to inform the audience and all stakeholders about the electoral process as seen by Promo-LEX observers. And the third is to notify the competent authorities about some deviations that occur during the organization of presidential elections in the Republic of Moldova. I would like to reiterate one more time that the opinions expressed in this report belong to the mission. They do not. If we speak about interpretation of legislation, these are not official interpretations because it is only the Parliament of the Republic of Moldova that can interpret officially the legislation. And now I would like to present the main findings of the report included in this report. And traditionally, I will start by presenting some drawbacks or problematic issues related to the legal framework. First, this report contains our opinion regarding the quite uncertain situations that might occur if the incumbent president of the Republic of Moldova runs for this office in parallel with other candidates. It's very difficult for ordinary people to differentiate between ordinary activities in his position of president of the country and the image dividends that this potential candidate might acquire if he registers as a candidate. So we believe that different mentions or statements should be made, or mentions given according to the law, or also different visits made in the territory with the state security service, or also situations when the president in office, due to his position, can have meetings with foreign people, which is directly prohibited by the Electoral Code. And I believe that these issues need to be solved for the following elections. Also, we have to state that now it is quite unclear the situation with who is an electoral candidate for these presidential elections. We mainly speak about political parties, social and political organizations, electoral blocs. Are these electoral candidates or not? This definition is presented in a faulty way in Article 1 of the Electoral Code. In our opinion, however, and on the basis of our non-official interpretation of the Electoral Code, we believe that political parties, social political organizations and electoral blocs are electoral candidates as well, like the candidates that they have nominated. We can offer some arguments in this regard, because according to the Electoral Code, though this is not stipulated expressly in Article 1, which contains definitions, in the special part of the Electoral Code, there are some tasks assigned to political organizations, political parties, and electoral blocs related to the registration of groups of initiative, funding of initiative groups, bearing the legal liability for violations. They also receive appropriations from the state budget depending on the results obtained by the candidates that they have nominated. The other aspects that I would like to raise, an aspect that has generated a number of discussions in the society, is related to the funding of electoral campaign. In this regard, I would like to underline that the circular issued by the Central Electoral Commission raises a number of questions and suspicions related to this situation. First, we have to state clearly that the Central Electoral Commission, like ourselves, is not an authority that may provide official interpretations of the law. It is only the Parliament of the Republic of Moldova, the plenary meeting of the Parliament, can provide official interpretations of the law. Hence, those aspects detailed in that circular are outside the remit of the Central Electoral Commission. The second issue that I would like to mention is about Article 43, paragraph 7 of the Electoral Code, which states exactly that political parties may provide financial support to the candidates they have nominated, including for presidential elections, within the limit of resources that they have on the current account of the party as of the date when the electoral campaign started. We also have to underline that the Central Electoral Commission had a continuous interpretation with regards to the same issue throughout all of the electoral campaigns that were organized since 2014, let's put it like this. So in 2014, at least 2 political parties went beyond that ceiling set for legal entities and donated more funds than the ceiling set for legal entities, and this was accepted by the Central Electoral Committee. For the elections of 2015, 7 parties exceeded the ceiling, and this was accepted by the Central Electoral Committee. 2016, 4 political parties. 2018, 2 political parties. 2019, parliamentary elections, 2 political parties exceeded the ceiling for donations that can be made by legal entities. Local elections of 2018, 1 political party exceeded the ceiling set for donations that can be provided by legal entities. So, as we can see, for many years, the position of the Central Electoral Commission was the same, and now, during the electoral period, the rules of play seem to be changed by the Central Electoral Commission. And here I would like to underline another very important thing. During the period when initiative groups are registered and are funded, the Central Electoral Commission accepted donations in kind and financial donations by political parties and registered electoral candidates in the run. So we can see that the Central Electoral Commission, including for this campaign, has 2 different approaches with regards to the same matter. Hence, we believe that this circular of the Central Electoral Commission should be repealed, and the Central Electoral Commission, as a collective institution, should decide and should review separately this issue. Regarding the performance of the Central Electoral Commission and electoral bodies, I would like to make some important findings. We have to underline that during the reference period, the Central Electoral Committee approved 79 decisions, approved a regulation, which is necessary in our opinion, but unfortunately it was approved late. It is the regulation on the funding of initiative groups, which was approved by the Central Electoral Commission after 7 initiative groups were already registered and had already started their work in the territory. We have to underline that during the reference period, the Central Electoral Commission has already accredited the first 21 international observers, and we welcome this fact, and we hope that the number of international observers will increase, both international and national observers will increase. Another topic that was very much discussed recently is about opening polling stations abroad, and in particular the pre-registration procedure. The report that will be published when the press conference ends, so it will be published on the website, on our website, promo-lex.md, and there you can find more details, but nevertheless I would like to mention some important aspects. As we have presented in an analysis published on 8th of September 2020, the Central Electoral Commission must decide and express clearly or state clearly which pre-registrations are taken into account as a basis for the decisions on the polling stations opened abroad, because currently the statistical data stated on their website shows all of the pre-registrations from 2018 to 2020. At the end of 2019, we requested from the Central Electoral Commission information with the statistical data as of that date, and in 2019, 24,195 persons were registered. On 16th of September, on 7th September, when we made an assessment of how the pre-registration impacts the decisions on the polling stations opened abroad, and this information is published on Promo-LEX official website. So we've seen that in 2020, only 4,800 new pre-registrations were made. Subsequently, thanks to the joint effort of political parties, civil society organizations, Central Electoral Commission, Center for Ongoing Electoral Training, which promoted the need for pre-registration, we reached a record figure of 60,000 pre-registrations, of which about 35,000 are new pre-registrations made in 2020 for the presidential elections. If we are to analyze who were the most active in 2020, we can see that the most active people were the ones in Italy, with 12,000 new registrations. In the UK, about 9.5 new pre-registrations. Germany and Russia with a bit over 6,000 new pre-registrations. Nevertheless, we have noticed that the pre-registration seems not to matter that much for the Central Electoral Commission, which is regretful in our opinion, because on September 11th, 2020, the Central Electoral Commission submitted a draft paper to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and European Integration, which contained its opinion without any justification, without organizing any public discussions, and what is more important, this was done before the pre-registration deadline. So they recommended to open 202 polling stations abroad. In our opinion, this figure of 202 polling stations, disregarding the fact that it would be welcome, if possible, to open this number of polling stations abroad. But the biggest problem is that the budgets are allocated only for 150 polling stations. And the second issue, the Central Electoral Commission, on the basis of ongoing communication with the Minister of Foreign Affairs and European Integration, has details about eventual refusals of host countries to open polling stations on their national territories. That is why we have a suspicious attitude, and we treat with low trust this decision of the Central Electoral Commission with regards to the opening of these polling stations. And we would like to reiterate again the message of the Coalition for Free and Correct Elections, that Promo-LEX Association is part two, that genuine public consultations need to be organized on this topic. And these public consultations should build on all of the available materials that would contain arguments that were used to recommend a certain number of polling stations to be opened in a certain country and their geographical location. Some issues related to the organization of elections for inhabitants of the Transnistrian region. Here, we have to mention that they also can use the pre-registration procedure, but unfortunately they were not as active as voters abroad. So far, a total number of 105 pre-registration were made by them, of which 71 are pre-registrations made in 2020. Also, we have to mention that the Central Electoral Commission showed its openness and intention to open 41 polling stations for the electorate from Transnistria. This number is a bit lower compared to the parliamentary elections of 2019, when 47 polling stations were opened there. Nevertheless, we have to draw attention to certain specific issues related to the opening of these polling stations. There are some locations where the number of polling stations opened for voters from the Transnistrian region can be higher than the number of polling stations opened for inhabitants from that settlement. And these can stir unpredictable reactions from the inhabitants of those settlements. And this is mainly due to the impact of the elections of 2019. For example, for Senatovka, the Central Electoral Commission decided to open 4 polling stations for Transnistrian voters, whereas for that settlement only 1 polling station. 2 polling stations in Dorotskaya for voters from Transnistria and only 1 for inhabitants of that settlement. In addition, we have to mention that the voters from the Transnistrian region must get informed about the electoral process of Moldova. Unfortunately, they will do it using the classical communication tools, meaning mass media and social media. And this is so because it seems that the Transnistrian region will be isolated until the 1st of December 2020 due to a decision on amending the so-called legislation from that region. Most probably, the electoral candidate will find it difficult to reach out directly voters from that region. And it will be difficult for them to communicate with voters. And I hope that this will not affect the extent to which they are informed. At the same time, I hope that constitutional authorities manages to find solutions for this sensitive issue. And hopefully these solutions will be within the legal framework and will not generate any suspicions of political partisanate in favor of certain political candidates. Regarding the registration of candidates, we have to underline a number of important aspects. Mainly on the basis of statistical data so far. We have noticed that two initiative groups, because in the previous report we have presented similar situations about other potential candidates, but now we have seen that other two initiative groups announced their intention to get registered and being registered before the period for registration. So it was the decisions of political parties to nominate Mr. Usate and Deliu for the electoral campaigns, and these decisions were announced before the official date when they had the right to do it. Now, the Central Electoral Commission has 13 initiative groups registered, and we have to mention that two initiative groups for two potential electoral candidates. So it is Mr. Kostas and Kalinin, independent candidates, submitted the documents repeatedly. They were not registered the first time, but only after they submitted the document the second time. Now, there are two candidates registered by CSC, Mr. Usate and Mr. Nastase, nominated by our party and Platforma Da party, and they've managed to collect two initiative groups supporting Candu and Mr. Deliu. As for the electoral litigations, we have noticed the first litigations emerging already, and here we have to underline that these litigations are submitted to different public authorities. At least 5 notifications were submitted. Notifications and petitions were submitted to the Central Electoral Commission. Of them, 1 was resolved, and the petitioner received a comprehensive response. 2 notifications and petitions were rejected due to procedural reasons, and 2 have not been reviewed yet. At the same time, at the Chisinau Court of Appeals, there are at least 2 litigations pending. One of them I will present in more details because it is also about a sensitive issue. It is about the request of Pace party to have their initiative group registered for the electoral run. It was rejected on the grounds that on the date when the electoral period, in the CEC opinion, 25th of August 2020, this party was registered by the Public Services Agency. But at the same time, we have to state that the Electoral Code stipulates exactly that in the electoral run, political parties may nominate candidates if they were registered by the competent authorities, which is the Public Services Agency, before the date when before the date of elections is announced. And we have to say that the date of elections was announced in May 2020. After that, 2 political parties were registered, which is Pro-Moldova party, which was registered in June 2020, and Pace party, which was registered on 25th of August 2020. Nevertheless, we have noticed that Pro-Moldova party was accepted and was registered. Its initiative group was registered, whereas for Pace party, this was rejected, and this case is being litigated now. So we can see that certain provisions of the Electoral Code are interpreted differently. Also, a notification was submitted to General Prosecution Office focusing on alleged falsification of signatures on the collective requests of pre-registration. Unfortunately, so far, no information was made public about the decision of the General Prosecution Office on this very sensitive issue. And here, I would like to underline that the analysis that was presented publicly by Promo-LEX on 8th of September 2020, we have seen how the pre-registration can impact lawfully the authorities' decision regarding the polling stations opened abroad. And there we have seen in details that using the data for that period, the Russian Federation was in an advantage because thanks to the pre-registration made by Moldovan citizens for Russian Federation, they received an additional number of 8 polling stations. If the decision was based strictly on the criteria stated in the Electoral Code. So in our opinion, these suspicious of alleged false signatures on pre-registration applications should be examined immediately. Regarding the performance of electoral candidates and the candidates that have been registered already, because there are 2 candidates registered already, we have to mention 2 very important aspects. At least 125 activities with an electoral impact were organized by political parties before initiative groups were registered. As for the distribution or who are the stakeholders or political parties targeted, we can say that 31% of these activities are related to the Party of Action and Solidarity, 15% of these activities were done by SHORE political party, and 13% by our party. As for how active the initiative groups are or were during the signature collection, we can say that our colleagues observed at least 158 activities of various type, meetings with voters where they tried to raise awareness, banners, advertising, distributed materials. Out of these 158 activities, Party of Action and Solidarity accounts for about 52%, Anastasia's parties 13%, Platforma Da Party, National Unity Party of Mr. Tsiku 13%, Mr. Deliu's party 13% as well. Unfortunately, we have the first cases of taking credit for activities funded from the state budget. Our observers have identified at least 8 cases that can be regarded as taking merits for such activities. The Party of Socialists 4 cases and SHORE political party the other 4 cases. Observers have also reported cases that can be regarded as provision of electoral gifts, and at least 2 cases where political parties benefit of transfer of image of some foreign personalities. So one situation is related to Party of Action and Solidarity, and the other one is about the Party of Socialists of Moldova. And now I would like to draw your attention to the funding of electoral campaign. a very important thing. On the basis of statistical data, we can see that 75% of all resources allocated for initiative groups are donations made in kind, meaning goods and services by political parties for the initiative groups that they have registered, and 17% are financial donations made by political parties. The others are different activities, but they have a lower percentage. As for expenses that were not reflected in the initiative group's financial reports, we can say that Promo-LEX observers reported activities, situations of using funds that involved use of funds for the benefit of the candidates that they supported for the presidential elections. The total amount of non-reported spending, according to the estimates of Promo-LEX, is about 735,000 lei. It relates to at least 9 initiative groups, but most of the spending refers to the top 3 potential electoral candidates. So these are the candidates nominated by Shor Party, Violeta Ivanov, Platforma Da Party, Andrei Nastasi, and the independent candidate, Mr. Igor Dodon. Unfortunately, the faulty practice continues where potential electoral candidates or the electoral candidates that have been already registered use hate speeches in their campaign activities and political promotion activities. On the other hand, there are many situations where visible persons in the public area use the same procedures against certain potential electoral candidates. So speaking about situations when hate speeches was used by candidates, only 2 such situations were found. Both cases involved Mr. Usatый, nominated by our party, and at least 9 cases that targeted potential electoral candidates. So it is about Mr. Usatый, nominated by our party, independent candidate Igor Dodon, Andrei Nastasi, nominated by Platform Dignity and Truth Party, and Maya Sandu, nominated by Party of Action and Solidarity. Having said that, I would like to thank you for your attention. These were the main findings reflected in the second report monitoring the campaign for the President of the Republic of Moldova. As I've said, the non-edited version of this report is presented only to journalists that attended this press conference. And when the report is edited, it will be placed on the website of Promo-LEX. The press releases and the summary of the report will be made public quicker once this conference ends. Hopefully, we will meet at the next press conference. Traditionally, it will take place on a Thursday in 2 weeks at the same time, 10:30, in this venue, in the campaign office of Promo-LEX Association. If you have any questions, I will try to answer them. Good morning, ProTV. You've said that it's difficult to differentiate between President Igor Dodon and electoral candidate Igor Dodon. considering the fact that Igor Dodon has not yet decided whether he will give up on his presidential duties during the electoral campaigns, what would be the solution, in your opinions, to make sure that voters do not confuse the president with the candidate? Well, unfortunately, it's very difficult to find such a solution. What is a fact is that the law does not allow to suspend the incumbent president from his position unless he or she has violated the law. So, the only way in this regard would be for the president in office to try to keep the distance, and as long as the law has not been amended, and to abstain from performing the tasks that are not important or that can be postponed for after the electoral campaign. So this is mainly about giving out awards and so on and so forth. Of course, in such a situation, when the president of the country performs in good faith the mandate and performs in good faith the responsibilities and tasks that are assigned to him through popular vote, then there is no. But each issue can be examined separately, and it depends on the president how he will present to the public opinion what he has done or has not done. The very Moldova, you have mentioned that 41 polling stations will be opened for voters from Transnistria. Tell us, please, how will they travel during the pandemic? Well, I have to mention that this is the declared intention of the Central Electoral Commission to open them. That's a preliminary intention. No information was made public to state why this number is recommended, 41, and where these polling stations will be opened. But the most important and the most severe part is indeed about the travel restrictions imposed on Transnistrian citizens. They are literally blocked by that administrative border, by the so-called control posts that have been installed unlawfully. And as I've mentioned, it seems that this restriction was extended until the 1st of December. Well, it's difficult for us to make comments regarding the situation. What we can say is that the national authorities need to make efforts in a transparent manner, which should be made public, how they want to solve this issue. Because in the Transnistrian region, there are more than 200,000 people, citizens of Moldova with a voting right, are living. So, besides the obligation to get informed about the electoral procedure of Moldova, they also have the right to vote. So I believe that yes, because according to the recommendations of the Central Electoral Commission, these polling stations are opened on the territory controlled by constitutional authorities. So it is not about opening polling stations outside the territory controlled by constitutional authorities. Okay, if you don't have other questions, thank you very much for your attention. I would like to thank the translators one more time who translated this event. And I hope that I did not make their job very difficult, and because I tried to speak at a slow pace. So hopefully we'll see each other in 2 weeks at the next press conference at 10:30. and have a nice day and be safe, keep safe.